Are you asking me what kind of guitar strings? Okay, no, because somebody else I borrowed the guitar, so I don't know what strings he put on.
Well, we're on air already.
We're on the air. Hello.
Hey, everybody, I'm Shane. I'm here with Murali, Coryell.
Yes.
Did I do that
You
right?
correct.
I was a little nervous.
There's a Coryell County, Texas.
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of counties in Texas.
Yeah, no, it's a little one.
Most of them are huge,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most things Texas are big.
Yeah, that's what we like to say.
Yeah.
How true that is.
Yeah.
But I usually start these interviews off about talking about the history of the venue and the artist, and this is your first time here, correct?
First time at the Mucky Duck, and hope it's not my last
It won't
because
be.
wonderful place
Well,
it is.
thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the show.
The room. It's a real listening and music room, and as a musician, you just hope that you show up. When you show up someplace, travel a long distance, you hope that people care,
Right.
and they do.
They do.
Yeah,
They're out there.
and when they let you know, it lets me know, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
I just want to do my job. That's it.
Well, it was a lovely, lovely evening, so we'll have you back. Where are you living? Where are you from?
I live in upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
Not far from Woodstock, New York.
Okay.
And but my father was born in Galveston, Texas.
Was he really?
Yeah, so that technically makes me the son of a Texan. And so
How was he born in Galveston?
how?
What was he doing? I mean, I know how.
Well, jeez.
I mean, what were
That's
his
where they
parents
lived.
or-
I mean,
yeah.
that's where he lived in Galveston until he was 7.
Okay.
So he was born in 1943, and then in 1950, he moved to Richland, Washington,
Okay.
and then he went to school out there a little bit, and then went to New York to be a jazz guitarist, and the rest is history.
That's history.
And he told me that I wanted my first son to be born in New York City, and so that's why I was born
That's
in
why
New
you
York
were born
City.
in New York? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And back then, my dad used to play with Jimi Hendrix and Santana and people like that. And so we lived with Santana when I was 1 year old.
Okay.
And Jimi Hendrix held me when I was a baby, when I was less than 1.
But I guess you don't remember that.
I don't remember it, but I wrote a song about it. It's called
Yeah.
I Was in the Room with Jimmy, and it's a true story. And, I grew up around these amazing people. Miles Davis used to come to our house, George Benson, and I thought that everybody was like that.
Right.
And so these are the people I really looked up to. This is my father's friends, and I mean the way they could play their instruments, they just were just in such command of their artistry, and to be able to carry on and continue the music, because there's some music that you can't necessarily learn from a book. You have to go to the people.
Right.
You have to go to the real people. I did a lot of shows opening for B.B. King as a blues artist. B.B. King was, the Mount Rushmore of blues. And Buddy Guy, I was able to play with him. I played with people like Levon Helm. I had to play with Delbert McClinton. I've played with so many of my idols and my heroes that I know that dreams do come true.
Right.
And so I'm very optimistic. And music is the great uniter. And it's brought me all over the world. And it's brought me things that money can't buy. I'm going to be on an island with Mick Jagger in January and February. And I got to have lunch with Mick Jagger.
Really?
Not that many people have got to do that. And went to his son's wedding at Rupert Murdoch's house in England. And my wife and I are basically saying, what the heck are we doing here? But music, it's because of music.
Yeah.
Music is such a blessing. It's made me so happy and brought me so much fortune and made me so many friends. And that's why a place like the Mucky Duck, I mean, it has such a reputation, and it totally lives up to it. My first time here, they said, oh, it's really good room, you're going to love it. And they were right.
Mick Jagger told you that?
No, he didn't
No.
know. But Mick would love. He would love this place.
They almost came here on their
Yeah.
last tour.
Yes.
It is guys scouted out. They were going to come have
Mick
dinner.
goes out.
but
Mick, he's
it
a
didn't
regular
happen.
dude. Like he liked to go out to like a little place and like be kind of incognito, and check out real music.
So what do you think of the new song? Have you heard it? The new
They have a
song
new one.
Yeah, it's had a new song released, put out.
I need to hear
It's
it.
actually really good. I enjoyed it.
I mean, they're always they're so good. I mean, they have the ability. If they want to do something, they can do it,
Yeah.
and they can do it right. I know that Mick is he has a very high standards. So if he's going to do something, it's going to be good.
Right. No, it's a cool song.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get in these little questions about.
Sure enough.
It's all gonna be about you and your music from the past. What was the first record that you purchased with your own hard-earned money, or stole?
This is great. I actually haven't answered some answers to this. Well, okay, here's what I'll say. My dad gave me Jimi Hendrix Are You Experienced album.
Okay.
I think I still have it. And he circled certain songs on it and said, I think you're going to like this one. I think you're going to like that one. I also will admit, I think one of the first albums I ever bought was Double Vision by a Foreigner. It was back in the day.
I think Foreigner's a highly underrated band.
No, listen.
I love Foreigner.
And when I worked in a recording studio, and I was actually sent to pick up Foreigner at the airport and drive them around. And they're wonderful people,
Nice.
But I'll tell you, the first CD that I ever bought was Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder. So
Okay.
I remember that. And certain albums, we had records, this is in the 70s, certain records, jazz and pop and, different records were in our house, from like Fleetwood Mac Rumors. I mean, that was a big one.
Of course.
I remember I had that. And, one of the mistakes I made was I played at Mick Fleetwood's club in Alexandria, Virginia, and he wanted to play with me, and I said no. And it was a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But I didn't know any better. I was young.
Do you think he was going to mess up your songs?
Well, I was only thinking about myself and my band.
Yeah.
And so if I had had a good manager, I was my own manager, and I was 25, so I didn't know what I was doing. So, but Mick, I apologize, and hopefully, I wish we'd had a chance to play maybe another time, But the opportunities come and go. Like my dad, he was asked to join Earth, Wind, and Fire. He didn't do it, Eric Clapton asked him to play the Crossroads Festival in Dallas. He didn't do it. He had another gig, My mom, Julie Coryell, who was an amazing writer and actress and manager for my father for years, she was asked by Billy Joel's wife to manage Billy Joel. And she said no. And we always used to tease her, Mom, why did you do that? You should have done it. But what can you do? What can you do? You think about things. You can't think about what you did and worry about it too much. You just got to move forward. So I think about all the things, the mistakes that I've made. Hopefully I learn from them. And let's move forward.
Of course. Yeah. Can't get in the time machine.
Yeah.
So you've been around music all your life. Do you remember the first concert that you wanted to go to as a young man? I know you probably started seeing music at a very young age, but was there one like,
oh yeah,
I'm going to this, I'm going to see?
Okay, yes, this is great because I was just talking to somebody about this. I mean, I was young, right? So I had been to a lot of my dad's jazz shows.
Of course.
But I was younger. I was into all kinds of things. So I remember one of the first concerts that I paid to go see was the Kinks, for example.
Right.
And like back then, I could scalp a ticket for like $12 or something like that. The Ramones was another show I went to. It was like a mosh pit, going in there and getting, cranking, smashed around. When you're young, you can do that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Yes and Pink Floyd. So, it was like, and Santana, of course. Also. So, the famous classic rock people. But The most expensive ticket I ever paid for a concert was to see Al Green at BB King's in New York City. It was on my birthday, which was October 27th. And I paid $175. It was the most I ever paid for a ticket. But, you know, like that commercial says, it costs more, you know, it's worth it.
Right.
You know, and I'll never forget it. And he threw a red rose. He was throwing out red roses, and I caught one. I had to fight off a lot of women for that. And then afterwards, I went to a place called the Sugar Bar in New York City that was owned by Ashford and Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat in and sang Love and Happiness, and Ashford and Simpson sang backups on it with me. And so just interesting things like that where, wow, here's this famous person that I grew up listening to, and now here I am with them.
Yeah.
And so those things happen, and I just try to not get too, because I get starstruck sometimes.
Of course.
When I'm around Mick Jagger, I'm like, I don't know what to say sometimes, you know. But, you know, if you just be yourself and don't be a jerk, just be kind of a normal, nice person, then most of these people are pretty down-to-earth,
Right.
cool people, and they love music just the way we do. You know, we're all fans of the music. Music is the great uniter.
Okay. So who actually is the first musician you put on a pedestal?
Oh, boy. I mean, B.B. King was one. I mean, you were talking about records, and when I was telling my dad about, you know, I was listening to classic rock and Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and Eric Clapton, he said, if you want to hear what these people listen to, you need to listen to Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, go get B.B. King live at the Regal, which is, you know, probably one of the best live blues recording of all time. It gives me chills every time. That was one of them. And so what was the specific question?
Just who was the first artist you put on a pedestal? Musician.
I mean, boy, Jimi Hendrix from a very young age. I mean, I listened to Jimmy from a very young age with headphones and, you know, probably inhaling smoke that was in the room at the time.
Okay.
And getting an effect from that. And then when I heard Al Green, that was a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, certain artists like Johnny Taylor, Al Green, I mean, they just change your life. I mean, and it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, and when I get into something, I really get into it. So once I discovered Al Green, I got every album.
Right, of course.
Every album that I could get, you know. Muddy Waters, let me get everything. Robert Johnson only had about 29 songs, I think.
Yep.
You know? So, you know, most people will tell you that if you go back, you know, this music, if you go back to the roots of it, it shows you where it's coming from.
Of course.
You know, and the whole thing about having strong roots, you know, it builds a foundation for whatever music I play. I want it to have whatever that feeling is that you can't describe,
right.
But it's the feeling that gives you chills and makes you, you know, feel good. And it's like you can't see music, but you can feel it. It's just like air. You can't, you know, unless it's cold, you can see your breath. But, you know, a lot of things, you can't see them, but they're there.
Of course.
And so music is one of those incredible phenomenon that it just makes me feel good. Whenever I play music or listen to music, I feel better.
Right.
And I've made a list of things like what makes me feel good. You know, sometimes when you're down, you try to get up, you know, what makes you feel good? Okay, I like Star Trek. I like watching that. I like Columbo. I like certain shows, old school shows. I'm, you know, becoming like my mom and my grandma. But music it's so instantaneous. Like from the first note, when you hear it, I don't know anything else that does that. That can just like that.
Right.
You know, just make you feel, change your mood from this to that. And I did a song about that tonight called Music Sets You Free. And when I had met Quincy Jones back in 2009 at South by Southwest, he said, music is the only thing that stimulates your left and right brain at the same time. So I thought that was cool. So I wrote a song about it and lifted his little quote. And I found it to be true.
Okay. So I have a feeling you're going to have a hard time with this next one.
Uh-oh.
You're on a desert island. You're taking 3 records. What 3 records are you taking with you?
That is such an awesome question.
I wish you could be
Now,
more.
now,
but
now,
just
you,
with-
now, now we're not allowed to do like box sets.
no,
right?
no
Okay.
box sets.
Okay.
No greatest hits.
Okay.
No,
Well-
no live records.
Okay.
An actual album.
Well, no, you can do a live record. You could do a
Well-
live record. You could if it's just the one, one thing. Oh my gosh, 3 records. Okay, I'm gonna say "Kind of Blue" by Miles Davis.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna break it down this way. I'm gonna say
Okay.
one jazz album. If I'm gonna have one jazz album, it's that.
Okay.
It's gonna be one blues album. It's gonna be B.B. King, live at the Regal. So I got "Kind of Blue" by Miles Davis, B.B. King live at the Regal.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say Jimi Hendrix Electric Ladyland because it's a double and it's just deep. I mean, that's hard. It's hard to,
Well, that's 3 really good
but
ones.
those are 3 really good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could totally hang out on your island.
Yeah.
I could totally do that. So I don't usually ask this question, but since you brought it up, you mentioned earlier, what is your Mount Rushmore of blues artists?
Okay. B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. And then, I mean, traditionally, when you go to Chicago, they don't have B.B. King on there. It's Little Walter, Sonny Boy Williamson, Howlin' Wolf, and Muddy Waters. But I have to put B.B. King on there. So Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King. And then the 4th person on the Mount Rushmore of blues. Let me think about that. Blues. What blues could I not? Well, I have to say Robert Johnson.
Okay.
I probably would say.
Not one Texas boy. Freddie King.
Well, yeah, you see.
Lightning Hopkins.
See, you
It's
could.
your mountain.
No, but you can have. You could. Well, see, it's such a hard. It's fun to do these things.
No,
You know,
yeah.
whether it's like you're talking about greatest
I can't disagree
basketball
with you.
players of
Right.
all time, or football, or baseball. But yeah, no, I mean, it's wonderful to think about, and it's so nice that we don't have to limit ourselves. But you need to know these people, and so yeah, no. If I was to, Freddie King was huge for me. I mean, I remember my dad saying, "Murali, I think you're good enough to play like Freddie King now." And I was like, "Okay, thank you, Dad."
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
compliment.
it's a lot. I mean, and I'm trying to think about, everybody knows Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course.
Yeah.
But when I met Stevie Ray, he told me all the people that he listened to, and so he listened to Albert King and Jimi Hendrix and all the people.
Really idolized Hendrix.
Yeah. He listened to, I mean, his bends are straight out of Albert King just with the Stevie Ray thing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to end this interview, I got some either wars for you. I'm going to give you 2 bands.
All right.
You tell me your preference.
Yeah.
Just because you say one does not mean
I'm
you
afraid.
dislike the
I'm
other
afraid
one.
of this question because
And you're probably going to know half the people. So
Yeah.
the Beatles or Stones.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's the universal one.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's the
And
universal
it is
one.
so hard. Now, I mean, because they're just, boy, oh boy, oh boy. I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, somebody answered one night. They said, "Okay, it's Stones on a Friday night and Beatles on a Sunday morning."
I'll go with that.
That was very diplomatic.
I'm going to go with that one.
Chicken.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's so hard because I can't really, it's funny because I just heard from a friend of their friends that like Paul and Mick they were doing something, they were going to jam together, and Paul McCartney had said something like, "Oh, the Blues, they're just like the Stones, they're just like a blues cover band." And so Paul asked Mick, "What are we doing?" "Oh, just blues cover stuff, man." And then when I was at Mick's wedding, they were, the best man was joking, said, "We tried to get the biggest rock star, but Paul McCartney wasn't available." And that was like a little dig at Mick. But see, they have fun with it.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, that's such a, because the Beatles were, the Stones, they're more rooted in the blues. They're more rooted in the blues. But the Beatles, they just, I mean, their songs, but the Stone songs too. I mean, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I lived with, back then, the Hot Rocks was like a 2-record set, and then those two the Blue Beatles double one and the red one had like all their hits, and it's just like you kind of needed both of them. But it's a question that everybody. I knew you were going to ask
That's the universal one. That's what everybody asks.
It's so hard. I mean, I'd love to know what the.
Well, it's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, I like a challenge. I mean, it pushes you, and I'd love to know what the survey said. If we were playing Family Feud or something.
On this one, like I ask this all the time, it's probably been a little more Stones,
Right, a little
than
more
Beatles,
Stones.
but not a whole lot.
But
It's been
it's
pretty 50-50.
it's like it's really when you think about it, it's like
They're both great.
Can you imagine life? I'm trying to imagine life without them. I can't.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one's Dolly or Aretha.
For me, it's Aretha.
Okay.
I love Dolly Parton. You're talking about
Right.
Dolly Parton. Love her, love her, love
Yeah.
her. I'm just more they're equally amazing.
Of course.
I love them both. But for me, Aretha, I must.
Yeah.
I must. It doesn't get any more soulful than that.
Of course.
It is just chilling. It makes you have to try to sing better when you listen to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elvis or Sinatra?
Sinatra.
Sinatra has destroyed Elvis.
I'm going to say Sinatra, man.
I mean, destroyed him.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say
Not even
Sinatra.
close.
And I love Elvis too, but I mean, these are great questions. And I'm glad when I actually have a definitive answer. And it's not that I don't love Elvis, but Sinatra, it's just chairman of the board, as
Right.
they say. They could both carry tunes, and none of them really wrote their own tunes.
Right.
But they sang the heck out of
Yeah.
them, and they made them huge. And it's a voluminous library.
Yep.
That they both
Absolutely.
have.
Willie Nelson or Johnny Cash?
Oh my gosh.
You are in Texas.
I'm going to say Willie Nelson. I love Johnny Cash, but just the breadth of Willie. He wrote so many of the songs. And, I mean, this is great questions. But, yeah, I'll go with, hey, all apologies. And
You don't have to apologize. It's not like you
I did
dislike the
gigs
other one.
opening up for Roseanne Cash, and no, these are all heroes of mine. But no, I'll go Willie on that one.
Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, I love Prince, but
Michael's been making a comeback on this one. I'm
yeah,
a big Michael
like
Jackson
I love
guy.
Prince, but like Michael, it's like and I love Prince. I love Prince. But Michael, like here's what I say about Michael Jackson. I have been in South Africa, Beirut, Lebanon, Mustique, Amsterdam, Australia at like 3:30 in the morning local time, and then all of a sudden Thriller comes on or some Michael,
Yeah.
and then boom, it's an instant
I think
party.
he's the biggest star in the world.
Well, he was, and I say he kind of ruined it. He ruined it because he was so good at singing and dancing that everybody thought you had to be, and nobody else really had
that, right.
that. And so, of course, then they started taking people that could dance and pitch tuning them like Paul Abdul and
Right.
things like that. But it's not real. It's like help with
Right.
technology helping them.
course.
And Michael, I mean, from just childhood, from that childhood, being that talented.
Yeah.
And listen, Prince, forget it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he played every instrument. He wrote so many songs. He wrote more songs than Michael did. Michael didn't write as much.
Yeah, of course.
But, Michael, when you're just talking about he was the apex as far as the biggest, we topped out.
Yeah.
He topped everything out. It's been downhill since then.
I'd
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga or Madonna?
Oh, gosh.
The old or the new?
Well, here's the thing. I saw Madonna. I
So did
saw
I.
her.
Well, not probably when you did.
I saw her when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And the Beastie Boys opened up for them before anybody knew who they were. And, of course, I was a teenager. And, of course, I'm like, really digging it. And Madonna was extremely sexy at that point.
Oh, I remember.
She was changing outfits every other song. She had see-through stuff going on. She did this thing where she like had an interaction with a boom box and simulating things, and yeah, and it made an impression. And so, just because I'm more old school, I'm gonna go with Madonna.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Gaga too. She did the great thing with Tony Bennett, but Madonna is just more my generation.
Metallica or Sabbath?
I'm going Sabbath.
Okay.
Again, my generation.
That's the wrong answer, but
It's the wrong. I love Metallica.
no, there is no wrong answer.
No,
I'm just
and like
kidding.
Ride the Lightning is one of my favorite Metallica albums.
Yeah.
Sabbath,
Sabbath invented the whole thing.
Exactly.
They
Like
did.
I find I'm more of a roots. I always find myself going back to the older originators of it. And so yeah, no, that's
Sabbath.
that,
Sabbath's great.
Yeah,
Billie Eilish or Adele? It's another.
I'm gonna go Adele.
Okay.
I'm going Adele.
There's no wrong answer there.
Yeah, I'm going Adele. I like her. I like Billie Eilish too. Just don't know. I can't name any of the songs.
Okay.
And I sometimes judge artists like, do I know any of their songs?
Right.
If I know one, then it gives me okay.
course.
It gives me okay. That's sticking with me.
Okay.
So
I
remember a couple of the Adele songs I remembered. So yeah.
Makes sense. I got one more for you.
Yeah.
B.B. King or Miles Davis?
Are you kidding me?
That one's especially for you.
You can't do that. What? I'm supposed
was-
to choose one over the other? That's impossible.
You could just say Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, right. B.B. King or Miles Davis.
You don't have to answer it.
It's impossible. Like you can't. That's why when you asked me about the Desert Island albums, I said Miles
I
Davis
know.
is one and one was a B.B. King. So, I mean, it just depends on if you're more in a jazz mood. I mean, I would almost say Miles Davis because there's more depth to it.
Right.
Like B.B. King kind of did,
B.B. King.
one thing. Miles did so many things.
A lot of
But
things.
interestingly, both of them, if you were to remove whatever musical background was going on, they still sound exactly like they are.
Yeah.
So they were so consistent in their sound that it just.
Yeah, those are the
there's-
guys, you turn it on, you hear it, you know exactly who it is.
There's
Yeah.
very few people that like,
Yeah.
and especially instrumental voices. I think are easier
Yeah.
to identify, but a trumpet, a guitar, when you can really tell that, like people like B.B. King, Jeff Beck, Albert Collins. Albert Collins could have been on my blues list. He's a
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Texas guy.
I know. I wasn't going to say
Yeah.
anything.
You
I wasn't
know.
trying to give you too hard a time.
T-Bone Walker. I mean, that's another one. There's a lot of Texans. Blind Lemon Jefferson
There's a lot of
again. There's a lot of them.
Lance Lynch's got-
Doug
Lynch is
Somm is another guy I'm a big fan of. I mean, he did so much, and he's really Texas as well.
Of course.
And but isn't it nice we don't have to limit ourselves? But it's fun
We can
to
play with
play
it.
these games.
That's all we're
Yes.
doing here is playing games.
Okay, wait. Now I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, that's not how this
Best song of all time.
works. Oh, I don't.
Amazing Grace or Hey Jude or Stairway to Heaven?
Definitely not Stairway to
Yeah.
Heaven.
I think Amazing Grace.
Master of Puppets by Metallica.
Master of Puppets. Yeah.
It's all metal for me, or Rain and Blood from Slayer, but it's
It's
just me.
awesome, man. My brother, he's more the expert on that stuff. He plays with We're Not Gonna Take
choir.
It. Dee Snider.
Yeah, Dee
he's
Snider.
plays with
Plays
Dee
his
Snider.
sister.
Yeah. He's done a lot of heavy rock stuff, and my brother Julian, he currently plays with Alanis Morissette.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
he's out there. I saw him on CNN like about a couple months ago. So just glad to be part of the music scene, carrying on what my family has passed on to me, and to pass it on and share it with other people, and let's make our day, a little better. Life has its ups and downs, and I like to say, like, I saw a sign the other day. I was driving upstate New York, and there was a farm that said, "We have no bad days, just a few bad moments." So, and life is a team sport. And it's better to be kind than right. So these are things I'm thinking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I got for you.
Cheers, brother.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Mic drop. Yeah.